This is the HomeTech Podcast for Friday, January 29th. From Sarasota, Florida, I'm Seth Johnson.
And from Denver, Colorado, I'm Jason Griffin. How you doing, Seth?
Good, Jason. What's going on?
I wanted to come right out of the gate this week, Seth. Big announcement want to make. You and I have talked about this behind the scenes, but wanted to announce officially here this week that have decided to take a step back from the HomeTech Podcast. So really tough decision. Not one I took lightly, but it's been a really fun ride and ready to just go pursue some other options. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but wanted to start out by thanking you, Seth. It's been an awesome ride. I've really enjoyed the last 6 years.
Yeah, thank you. It has been an awesome 6 years. Just say that out loud is just crazy.
Just crazy.
Yeah, no. It's been a pleasure. I have always heard this from people that have worked with you and around you, like we're at a trade show or whatever, is to work with you in a professional, sense or whatever. It's just a pleasure because like you're just on the ball with everything. You're always there. It's been, this has been like a hobby, and it's still been a pleasure to sit down and just chat with you literally every week. It's been like, it is highlight of the week to sit down and just sit here and chat. So like, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's been a fun thing. Making a podcast can be kind of tedious and nerve-wracking and like overwhelming sometimes, but you managed to make it like fun. So thanks for being the partner this whole time for the past 6 years.
That means a lot to me. No, I really appreciate it, and lots of really nice messages coming into the chat room. No, I did not get fired. We'll talk a little bit about the co-host applications here that some people are talking about. Yeah. Like I said at the beginning, not a decision I took lightly. Thought about this a lot over the holidays, and this is really just a reflection of kind of a growing passion that I've got for some other topics around sort of productivity, knowledge work, knowledge management, these sorts of areas. We've dabbled in a little bit on the show, but I've really had just a burgeoning interest in some of these areas and kind of going out and exploring new software. So Roam being a great example. There's a really burgeoning community around that I've become very active in, and feeling really inspired to go spend some more time exploring that. It's just got this pull for me that I've been wrestling with. And ultimately, Seth, as you and listeners to the show know, have 2 young kids, a demanding job that I love what I do at work. And so ultimately just not a lot of time to go around, and something had to give in order for me to go kind of pursue something new and just go experiment. So again, not a decision I took lightly. It's been awesome working with you, and we'll take this opportunity right now to send my most sincere thanks to all of our listeners and the awesome community we've built around the show. What an amazing door opener this show has been. Like, that's the biggest thing I tell people whenever podcasting comes up, to people who may wonder, like, why do you do it? What's in it for you? What do you get out of it? It's the number one thing I cite every single time is the networking and the connections that I've made through doing this show. The community and the connection has been a really, really big deal to me. So, yeah, I'll be around. I'm not disappearing. But going to step back from the show and go pursue some new things.
Yeah. When you were talking there, I remember our conversations and how it all comes down. It doesn't come down to, but like you mentioned time and like how much of your you have all these little buckets you can put your time into. It's like, Jason, do you remember when we had time to like actually like, I remember before kids having plenty of time to do this podcast and sit down and like, go over like tons of stuff. Man, it is tough. It's hard now. It's really hard. And I time to me right now is not what it was 6 years ago. I can tell you that right now. Time to me is like a precious resource. And if anything takes time away from me, I'm just like, no, go away. Anything, house projects, anything, doesn't matter. Time I protect now. Like I have never protected time before. It's kind of wild.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny because I think back to before I had kids, and I always felt busy, and it's like, what the heck was I doing with all my time? I don't understand that. But yeah, it's been awesome. I was just reflecting back as we were getting ready to make this announcement and thinking back on 6 years and what a crazy ride it's been. That's been like this community and this show have been with me through the birth of both of my children. They've been with me through the move from Colorado back to Denver, through the VIA implosion, through buying my first house, through 4 years of Donald Trump. A lot. It's been a crazy ride, and it really has been like you said, a staple of my week, kind of a stabilizing force for me to be here week in and week out, talking about home tech and just immensely grateful for all of it.
Yeah. No, it's been one of the most fun things I've ever done. Like I said, I'm glad to have been able to go down this road and path with you. It's been a pleasure, absolute pleasure. So, the podcast isn't going away. I'm going to try and keep it around, try and keep it going. I'm just like you, Jason. I'm gonna protect my time here a little bit, and I'll probably switch to like a fortnight thing. Patreon stuff has been paused. And so like if you're a patron now, you're not going to get charged for whatever it was, February. I think it like goes out at the first of every month. So when that rolls around, those charges won't go through. And then, as I get further into it and pick steam back up again, I'll warn everybody and say, the Patreon thing may come back, but for now, everything's paused. Everything's free. The hub lives on. The show will, and you'll still be in the hub. Somebody wants to get a hold of you.
Yeah,
you're still in there.
I will be.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like you can live without Slack. I mean,
no, definitely not. Absolutely. And I'll take the opportunity here to say that I'm really glad you decided to carry things on, even if you go every other week. I think that's awesome. I 100% didn't, of course, pressure you either way, and certainly you had my full support with what you decided to do. Obviously, we've put a lot of work into kind of the HomeTech, I guess, brand, or just the entity of HomeTech, right? And I'm really happy to see it being carried on, and certainly as big news breaks and things in the industry pop up, I'd love to come back on and join every now and then as sort of a guest on the show as you keep it going.
Yeah, no, definitely. You know how this works. We get in here, we both say that we're recording just to make sure we're recording, and then
that's
go.
It.
So that's
it's pretty simple when you frame it like that.
When you think about it. Yeah.
So let's on to kind of the rest of what we want to do here with this episode. We are going to hit some HomeTech headlines like we typically do. So we'll talk about some news this week, and then for kind of our big feature where we might otherwise normally do like an interview or something, we're going to jump into kind of a then and now, which I think will be really fun. So preparing for this show, went back and looked through a bunch of old episodes and old show notes, and went back and listened to our very first episode. And we're going to spend a little bit of time reflecting on kind of the then and now of home technology, and what a wild 6 years it's been on that front. So that'll be fun.
Yep, sounds good. I'm seeing the chat is just out of control today. So these guys are hilarious. I don't know if you mentioned where you said you were going.
Thank you for that. Gosh, what an oversight. Yeah. Appreciate that. So I, as some of the listeners to the show will probably know, I launched a personal blog several months ago, pillarsofimpact.com. That's where I've been doing some writing. So I'm focusing a little bit more on writing these days. And again, kind of exploring new topics. Like they won't be totally new to anyone who's listened to this show for quite a while knows that I've always kind of had an interest in productivity, but the general idea, at least that I'm exploring now, and this is all very much open to change and evolution. I'm sure it'll evolve quite a bit, but just sort of exploring the tactics and strategies and mental models of people who are really effective at creative knowledge work. I'm really interested in that. And that captures productivity and software and interpersonal skills and personal development, and all these sorts of things are topics that I am really deeply interested in. So I'm going to continue doing writing on that Pillars of Impact site. And from there, I'm not sure what else. I'm going to take just a little bit of time and think it through. I'm interested in maybe exploring video and getting into maybe doing like explainer videos and that sort of thing on YouTube. Just try my hand at something totally different. Of course, podcasting is something that's near and dear to my heart. So I may start up a new podcast around those topics at some point, live webinars, things of that nature. I'm not sure 100%. That's kind of exciting, right? It's sort of an opportunity to step back and start fresh. So those are the general themes and areas where I'll be focusing on. But what that'll ultimately end up looking like, I'm not 100% sure.
Gotcha. No, it should be fun. Whatever it is, whatever you come up with, it will be fun to follow along and see what you're up to. So for sure, we'll keep an eye on Pillars, and we'll keep
thank you for
probably
that.
on Twitter too. You're on there, and I've seen you on there.
Yeah. I've been getting more active on Twitter, and so definitely I'll be around and would love to share some of the things I'm working on and get feedback and just stay engaged. Wonderful community of people around home tech, and I think some of the most forward-thinking minds in the industry. I think we have as listeners to our show, and I would love the opportunity to stay engaged.
Sounds good. Well, now that we got the hard news out of the way, what do you say we jump into some easy news and some HomeTech headlines?
Yeah, let's do it. The top line feature for Ring's latest new doorbell is no doubt its price. No way around that. At $60, it is $40 cheaper than the standard video doorbell, and prices from there go up significantly, jumping to the Elite at $350. The new doorbell will be available through Amazon and will be in Home Depot in-store exclusively through late March. So Ring's got a new doorbell out, $60.
Move over wise.
Yeah, this is great. This is good timing on my end. Funny story here, Seth. Our doorbell, we just have an old, cheap push button doorbell that started getting stuck recently. And so I replaced it, and then something that I was doing, I don't know if I shorted something or what, but all of a sudden the chime stopped working. And so I was at Home Depot looking at chimes, and they were like, it was like $30, $40 or more for like just a basic chime. And I was thinking like, I don't know if I want to buy one of these because that's money I could use for a video doorbell.
Right.
And I wasn't super keen on buying the Wise one. I've heard mixed reviews on it, and I just, at that price point, like it's almost too cheap. This $60 is kind of right in my wheelhouse, so I may have to buy it and install it. But yeah, you guys all here know how that stuff goes.
You already have the Ring Flood.
I mean,
you have the Ring Alarm. Oh, geez, the Caseta. It's still sitting there.
The Caseta is still in the box, so you can believe it.
So you already have the Ring security system. I know that. Don't you have some floodlights, flood camera things?
I do. Yeah, I've got the Ring security system, and I've got the Ring floodlight camera. So yeah, I'm already kind of in that Ring ecosystem, which is another reason why I was kind of leaning towards Ring.
Right. That's exactly why I would lean that direction, because you're already like everybody. It's not another app you have to deal with. Everybody in the family is already familiar with it, and $60. I mean, this looks like, now there's one thing this won't do that I've kind of come to find out is it won't strike the doorbell that you have inside the house. So like if you have the traditional doorbell, and you push the button outside, it really doesn't do anything. It's all going to be kind of a Wi-Fi type device. And that's why they sell, if you go look at their website, I'll put a link to all this in the show note. They sell it in a package too, with like one of their chime things, which are better than the stupid chime that you have in your house anyway. And they're pretty cheap, but you can, what's great about them, and like we love this, like around the holiday times, like especially for like Halloween or Christmas, you can change it to like spooky ghosts or so it's only $20 more. That's what it is. I was looking up the price. You can change it to spooky ghost. You can change it to like Santa saying ho ho ho. Like it doesn't sound great, but it's fun. And my daughter likes to hear that when somebody comes to the door. She knows what that means. So I don't know. It's fun for $20. I mean, you're going to spend $20 on a kid's toy and get less enjoyment out of it,
right,
over the years.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And you know what else? It saves me from having to pull the old chime off the wall and put a new one on. And that's problematic here because at one point, they repainted the house, and like whoever they hired to do the painting didn't take like any of the wall plates or anything off the walls when they painted. So every time I have to like, change a thermostat or change anything in the house, like I'm always left with this exposed area that needs to be painted. And so I'll just go ahead and leave that old broken chime on the wall, and I think move over to the Ring solution. Seems like a good bet.
$60. What did I say? It's on pre-order. I thought I saw that it would ship in May. Nope, the 24th. Sorry, shipping date on the 24th. So, well, one thing you got to be pretty glad that you don't have is Wink. This home automation service Wink has suffered yet another connectivity issue that has knocked out every bit of equipment that anybody has right now for the better part of a day. And I'm going to say this was written on the 25th. It is now the 27th. I just checked their site and it is down. And in a tweet, the company announced that it was investigating a connectivity issue for, quote, controlling devices connected to Wink, adding that local control was still unaffected. The company has also urged users not to unplug their hubs or log out of their accounts while Wink looks to fix the problem. The problems with Wink service began sometime around 10 a.m. Eastern on the 25th. And like I said, as of recording, the 27th here at 7:50 p.m. Eastern, it still looks like they are down.
Are these the long-awaited death throes? Is the question.
I think Richard's going to get his prediction fulfilled pretty quickly here. This is wild.
Yeah,
this is wild. It says the 27th as of 3:00 today Eastern, the one true time zone. We have identified the issue and we're working on implementing a fix. We are still encouraging our users to refrain from unplugging their Wink hubs as local control is not affected. Wild.
Yeah, and this obviously coming on the heels of their back in May when they announced that they were going to start charging, out of the blue, and hardly gave anyone a heads up on that. So they're not really well banked here in terms of goodwill with their customers, and I can't imagine this is going over very well. I'm surprised that people are still. I mean, I guess if you're like really invested in that ecosystem and you've got a lot of automations and things like that set up, like I can see trying to stick it out and get as much use out of it as you can until it finally goes. But I got to tell you, if I was anything other than like the most heavy Wink user, I would have jumped off the ship quite a while ago, I feel like.
Ron's threatening to throw away his egg binder. Yeah.
Seriously, I haven't used that piece of crap in years. It's funny.
I had one of those and it went in the trash pretty quickly. Like it served no purpose.
Yeah.
Kind of regret doing it. It would be a nice museum piece, but then again, I don't want an egg binder in a museum.
Was this before you had the museum though?
It's been well before the museum, yeah. Before I started collecting everybody's stuff, yeah.
Funny.
Oh man, it is and I think Ron, I think you were talking about setting up his egg minder, and they were going to charge him like the $5 a month or whatever, $10 a month or whatever it was for the egg minder. He's like, no, thank you, that's not going to work.
Yeah, funny. All right, well, moving on from there, wanted to hit very quickly on the Savant, the dealer summit. So, Seth, I don't know if any of this is like public news or if we got the scoop from sort of our inside sources. I'm not 100% sure, but what the hell? We're gonna talk about it anyways.
Yeah. So we don't have Julie anymore. To post over there all this stuff on CE Pro. So somebody's got to do it, Jason. It's got to be.
Right. That's right. So some highlights here. Why don't I just sort of run down the list maybe, and then we can give some color commentary and sort of bounce things around. So some of the highlights. Looks like bookshelf speakers with a host built in, cameras with analytics, 2 and 3 channel smart audio amplifiers, built-in AVB switch. We've got, Dish IP control, Josh AI integration coming soon. That's an interesting one. Also, Savant voice control coming soon. Strange they would do both. We'll talk about that here in a minute. A Savant store for dealers, so a dealer portal. Woohoo. Welcome to...
They already had that. It's just they've added a ton more brands. And
okay, got it. Yeah. I was going to say, that seemed weird. New UI updates, AI, the big buzzword, apparently AI. And then they've got a sort of a Savant service offering they were talking about as well that we might riff on for a minute. So what are your thoughts here, Seth?
My thoughts are, Savant is like CES for dealers, right? Like it's just like dreams and broken promises on aisle one. and then I don't know what I last year we talked about their Ring integration. I guess that's still not out. So I'm just kind of like trying to figure out, I'm scratching my head, like, why not show up the product a little bit more? And, before you start piling on more features like this, but here we go. Savant voice control, that that sounds interesting. Like all of this is coming soon. And like, well, what's the ship date? Like, why pre-announce this product and get everybody hyped up and excited? And then like, I don't, this is one thing I've never understood about Savant is that they hype this stuff up and they come in and they never deliver on some of this stuff.
Yeah.
It's kind of been disappointing because if you look at the product as a whole, you look at the interface, you look how easy it is to use. It's actually a pretty good system. I like Savant, but I just don't get this side of their business, like why they do this.
Yeah, I hear you. They've certainly garnered a reputation for that over the years in terms of kind of vaporware, not like hyping things up and then not pushing them out. But hard to say, maybe they just get excited about the new stuff and are eager to share. But yeah, they maybe are underestimating the sort of impact that can have on dealers' businesses in terms of not being able to parse out like what's actually coming and what should we not be holding our breath about.
Yeah. And one thing is like, well, Savant, like we treat it kind of as like the Apple of our industry, but it's like completely opposite when it comes to them announcing products. Like Apple is hush on like anything and everything that, like there's a, one of their VPs this week was like put on a top secret project. And like they won't even say what his title is anymore. Like it's completely different from the way Savant operates here, where it's just like, oh yeah, here's everything we're dreaming of doing, everything possible, and then like whatever we get to towards the end of the year or towards maybe next year or 2 or 3 years later, who knows? That's what you'll have. And I guess if you're a dealer, if you understand that's the working relationship to plan your business, it's pretty easy to plan around that. Like just don't sell something until you have it in your hands. But if you're a customer and you see things, press releases or something like that come along and say, well, Savant's announcing this voice control thing, maybe, like you get excited about that kind of thing because you've got Savant in your house and then it doesn't ever come to be. I don't know. I'm not saying that Savant voice control isn't.
Yeah.
I am saying that the Josh AI integration could be pretty cool. That sounds actually pretty interesting.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, I've got a anonymous tip here. So little birdie telling me that it wasn't necessarily that they were going to like fully integrate. I guess they were willing to share their API with Josh. So I don't know how big nuanced of a difference that is, but my source here, I feel so like formal saying that.
I know, right? You can say whatever you want, Jason.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. I gotta protect my sources. It says it was covered during Bob Madonna's keynote, and they thought it was actually a jab at Josh and not holding their hand out and inviting them in. So I don't know, weird dynamic there.
Very strange.
Not sure what to make of that, but. In any event, like we said at the outset of this Savant stuff, this is all hot off the tip line here. So I haven't seen a lot of any formal reporting on any of this.
Yeah.
So we'll, take it all through the appropriate filter, and I'm sure more news will be coming out. That's vetted, not the HomeTech anonymous tip line.
I will say on Josh AI. I have seen, and it didn't come through our anonymous HomeTech tip. That's really hard to say. HomeTech tip line. I saw this somewhere else, and the brilliant part of this is I literally can't remember what or who I was talking to about Josh AI, but I know that they have some stuff coming that will be really cool.
Nice.
And when it gets released, now I'll remember what it is. Maybe when I'm editing this show. Maybe later, 2 or 3 hours from now, I'll be like, oh yeah, that's what it was. And that's who it was. And that's who they're going to integrate with. But I don't remember what it is now to save my life. And that's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
But I will say
probably is. Yeah.
There's some really cool stuff coming down the road. And I do remember kind of what it is, but I don't remember who it was or what they were integrating with. So there's a Josh AI tip for you. Yeah.
Well, I got, the tip line is blowing up here tonight. I got one more. Savant Home, their app for the TV, apparently coming to the Fire Stick from Amazon.
Oh.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So there's that.
I could see that. That's actually a really good idea. And I would like to see more commercial like prosumer stuff like Crestron Home, Control4, Savant in this case, Elan, like try and put their interfaces on third-party devices, maybe like Amazon, maybe like Roku, maybe like Apple TV, and seeing how like you could utilize those interfaces for your interface rather than like these expensive controllers that they're using with the HDMI and everything built into them. I think it's kind of like the thin client model of computing, where you have like these little thin client terminals all around the house. It costs like $35, and then all of a sudden you get a mainframe, which is what runs everything. I think that could be a really cool idea. So I'm glad somebody, is pursuing it. It'd be interesting to see what they do with it.
Yeah. Yeah, really quickly, and then we'll keep moving because we got a lot of ground to cover here still. Looks like also, again, I mentioned this, some announcements on their Savant customer support model. I don't think this is brand new. My memory is a little fuzzy on this one, but I feel like I've seen some news on this before. So they've got kind of a customer support model here, direct to the end user. So you can apparently have your end user sort of call in to this customer care line. They've got some recurring revenue pricing and things like that they're trying to put in around that. So it will be really interesting. I got to say, like, it
sounds familiar, Jason.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, like, first and foremost, clearly I'm biased, right? So let's just get that on the table, like 100%. I fully own that. But, I am just very curious about this, knowing what we know about doing this sort of thing, like, and how integrated these systems are. Customers aren't typically aware of, am I experiencing a Savant issue? Is it a cable issue? Is it a Sonos issue? Is it a, you name it, right? And so I'm curious, like, how they'll sort of scope this versus a more universal approach of saying, like, we support the entire home versus maybe just supporting Savant. I'm not sure. I have a lot of questions around that, but overall, I do think it's interesting, and I think it's good to see more companies thinking in this way, thinking about service and not just thinking about moving boxes. So overall, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, definitely a good thing. And also validating, like, this validates what you guys are doing over there at One Vision in some way. If it's like, to me, it means like, these manufacturers, if they start looking at this business model, there's something there. I think there's something there. I know there's something there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a big hairy problem there that we've got to figure out as an industry of how to make sure clients have a great experience after the installation. And we all know, anyone who's been in the business at all knows that that's a really difficult thing to execute, especially as a company grows and gets busy. And so, yeah, overall, I think it's good to see other companies focusing on this. Like you alluded to at One Vision, we're focused on this problem. We have definitely broadened our approach out, and we're really focused on kind of the whole pie, right, in terms of the business and how do you set up the entire sort of operation to support clients. So much more than picking up the phones and providing that tier 1 support. But that is a core part of our offering, and so obviously interested to see other companies taking the swing at it.
Well, so that's I do want to. That's all the news we have this week, but I do want to throw one link into our show notes and talk about this crazy fundraiser. This is what we have to do here in America. This is a GoFundMe for a friend of the industry, Scott Van Utert. I don't even know how to pronounce his last name. I don't think I've ever had to. I've just walked up to him at CEDIA and said, "Hey, Scott, how's it going?" We would talk. If you have been involved with Control4, you've probably touched Scott's work in some kind of way. He's a software engineer that works at Control4. Turns out, towards the end of last year, thanks, Jason. He got like had an ache in his back or something like that. Turned out he had stage 4 cancer that had metastasized into his spine. So they have been. He's taken a leave of absence and kind of, you can read more here on the GoFundMe story, what's going on. But basically, insurance and long-term disability just don't cover what his salary was. So this is kind of like to make up for that and help support his family. And I hope like everybody in the HomeTech Nation can go over and help Scott. I mean, he's a super nice guy. Just throw what you can, $5, $10, $20, whatever you can. over and help the family out there. Because Scott this is one of the workers inside the industry. This is somebody that's behind the scene. This is not somebody that is out in the forefront of doing things. This is somebody that's daily trying to make our lives as integrators, consumers, better. So I'm doing my part trying to help him out and trying to help his family out here on the podcast.
Yeah.
And I really hope that he gets better and gets past this.
Yeah. Hopefully we can inspire a couple of people to go donate. Every little bit counts with these sorts of things. I know it's cliched to say, but it's absolutely true. Given the internet now, there's so much reach in these things. And if everyone just gives a little bit, that can go a really, really long way. So, gosh, it's just so, it's hard. It's a wake up call anytime you read one of these things, and just reminds you like that, this could be any one of us. And you would hope that the community would rally around you if you were in that position. And so, I won't belabor it other than to say, we'll include a link in the show notes. We posted one in the live chat. I tweeted this out as well. And every little bit helps.
Yep. And also said something about here, donate blood for, recurring transfusions. If you can do that, if you can donate blood, and I know not everybody can, but if you can, donate blood. It's pretty good. People really, really, that's one thing that doesn't cost any money that you can do.
Yeah. Don here in the chat room, awesome, said he'll match the first 100 from this channel,
awesome.
which is really generous. So hopefully others will get in on that. I know I did a small donation already. Seth, you did as well. So thank you, Don. That's really generous of you.
Thanks, guys.
So moving on from there, like we said, Seth, we want to do a little bit of a then and now reflection here as we're getting ready to shift gears. And I'm going to take a step back here from the show. I thought it would be fun to take a look back. And Seth, the first thing that I did where I kind of wanted to start this conversation was went back and listened to episode number 1, HomeTech.fm/1. And it was really fun. I have to tell you, like, I was ready to just absolutely cringe when I listened to it. And I cringed a little bit, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I think we did a good job for taking a quick swing at it. I remember when you and I first started talking about doing the show, we had met on integrationpros.org is where you and I first got in contact, and I had reached out. I don't remember who reached out first, but it was basically like, hey, we seem to have similar viewpoints on things. Do we want to maybe try and do a collaboration? And you had said, hey, I was thinking about starting a podcast. And literally, I think it was 2 weeks later, we were sitting down and recording our first show. So we moved quick, and I'm really glad we did. It was fun to go back and listen to that show.
Yeah, I did the same. Since we talked about this, it's like, let me go see what we were thinking about back then. And I stand by it. It's still a pretty good show. We were
great. It was good.
We were pretty enthralled with what was that thing? Revolve. But
Revolve. That was a big one.
Yeah, but
it was a big one.
Yeah, it didn't. That particular product didn't hold up. But I think everything else is pretty good, pretty on point.
No, it was great. It was great. Anthony's here, said he's been listening since number 1, and really appreciate that. That's awesome to hear. Yeah, Revolve was one of the big things. This show was February 12th, 2014. And I'm Googling right now. When did Google buy Nest? Oh, wait, no, that's a different date. It was 2014. It was right before we did the show. So we talked about that. That was just sort of incidental timing there. But it was a show where we talked about designing a smart home. I think, interestingly, a lot of the things we talked about still very much apply. Of course, some of that is purely a reflection of the fact that we focused on more evergreen topics. So thinking about design and whether or not to hire a pro and things of that nature. But from a technology perspective, that sent me down the path of kind of going back and looking through, again, a lot of different episodes and show notes. And I took a particularly close look at our fireside specials that we did every year. I thought that would be a good vantage point to kind of get a sense for what happened each year. And there's been a lot of really interesting stories. So we talked a little bit about Google buying Nest already. We talked about Revolve. That obviously got purchased by Google as well. I can't remember if it was Nest technically that bought Revolve, but got shut down right away, and that team got rolled in. Amazon Alexa becoming the big thing, like that wasn't even around when we first started the show, which is kind of crazy to think about.
Well, yeah, that reminds me. One of our first episodes was who we talked to. I can't remember. It was a company out of New Jersey. And
VoicePod.
Yeah.
That was like one of our first interviews.
Yeah. I mean, it was like he was doing this really weird voice control thing. It seemed like it had some legs to it. It was really cool what you could do with it. It was very, pretty limited on what he was able to do with a smaller shop. But man, he was. People were putting that product in and enjoying using it. Little did he know, I'm sure that something like Amazon would come along and just absolutely obliterate his industry and just set up an entire new product altogether. Like you really can say like voice control started to exist when Amazon released the Amazon Echo. And before that, you had Tinkers, you had things like VoicePod that were out there. You had HAL 9000 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
There was a product, I can't remember what it was called, but it was before that. It was like Windows software that you could run on your computer. And it would take voice commands into it, process whatever you said, and try and automate off that. Amazon came in and just kind of blew everybody else out of the water. I think that was a distinct turning point for the industry in the last 5 or 6 years. So it is very interesting to see. A very wild ride after that, because Amazon wasn't even thinking of using the Amazon Echo as like a home control device. And I think today we kind of take that for granted. We kind of say, oh yeah, the Amazon Echo.
Yeah.
I use that to turn on and off my lights or whatever. But you go back and look in front of that first goofy commercial that they had. I don't even think it was a bullet point on what they were selling. It was more like Amazon Echo. You can ask it quirky things like the weather and for a joke, and it'll tell you a dad humor joke.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
It didn't do anything else. But people bought it and started using it and enjoyed it. And they started adding more and more features. It just like, everything got better and better. And here we are today, where it's just kind of like Alexa is a household name.
Absolutely is. And yeah, I don't think they were even intending to design the Echo at first. Like, as I understand it, it was sort of a byproduct of the phone, which was, of course, a commercial disaster. But really interesting that like, just to go back and think, it's only 6 short years ago that wasn't even around. And now it's just ubiquitous. And of course, you've got all of the other smart speakers out there. So that's really become a major category that didn't even exist when we started doing the show. Another one here, HomeKit. HomeKit, I think I don't even remember exactly where that was, but I don't think it was around, because I remember we were listening to episode 1 and we were speculating like, what is Apple going to do? They're sort of sitting on the sidelines for now. Yeah,
one of our most listened to episodes was HomeKit 101. I'm trying to look up the episode right now, but it was basically after they announced it, I sat through some of the WWDC sessions and watched those as I don't think they were streaming them or something like that. But I pulled all the information I could out of it and started to talk about what you could do with HomeKit. And completely different thought process is what Apple brought to the table. And they basically turned all of their phones, their extremely popular phones and iOS devices, into hubs for the home. So, it wasn't around. HomeKit's around now. Completely different world.
Yeah. Here's another good one, Seth. The Neo journey. So, man, I was thinking about Neo and like what an interesting, I guess, just kind of case study in the evolution of the smart home over the last, 4 or 5 years, whenever they initially came around. So they had their wildly successful Kickstarter campaign. They raised like $1.5 million. I think it set records, at least at the time. I don't know if that record's been broken now, but then, they had some challenges getting it out. They sort of ran into the reality of producing one of these devices and getting it out in the smart home. Started to see some traction there. Very quickly got acquired by Control 4. Still a part of that technically, but then Control 4 got, merged in or acquired by Snap AV. And so again, just kind of like an interesting microcosm of this Kickstarter, wildly successful Kickstarter product. And now, part of Snap AV and Chris and Neo crushed people's dreams.
They did.
That it was hard. It was hard. That was hard, definitely, they had a very loyal support base, and that is now a professional only product. So that one was definitely an interesting story as I look back on the last 5-6 years.
Yeah. And to be in where we are today, where, there's not so much, there's like rumors and rumblings that Logitech may shut down the Harmony program, just because, like, I guess this day and age, cam girls have made the video camera and mouse peripherals are much more profitable. I don't know. I don't know how this works. It's all business, but they're like, yeah, this is a very expensive product line, not because like they don't make money on the hardware, but it's something that they have to support. They have to keep updating. There's engineering costs that go into it. There's servers they have to keep up to keep their Amazon integrations going and that kind of thing. And there's also customer support. Like somebody, your webcam doesn't work. It's pretty basic. It's probably unplugged at that point, right? There's not much that can go wrong with a webcam or a mouse these days. But your remote doesn't work. You got to call Harmony up or Logitech and sit on the phone and talk to them. Man, that's pretty rough. So it really does suck that something like Neo doesn't exist for the consumer these days, so they can start investing in some other platform, because really there's not any great remotes out there right now other than, great consumer facing universal remotes right now. And also the other question, streaming can be another one of your big bullet points. Like, streaming didn't exist when we started this show. It is now. And the question is, do you even need a universal remote anymore? Because everything is we're all aiming for that input zero, where we just use the TV remote and turn it on.
Yeah.
And go with things that way.
Yeah. Definitely use cases where obviously that's still needed and important, but totally agreed. In many scenarios now, it's becoming less and less important as the amount of peripheral devices required to access content has dropped tremendously. So has the need for sophisticated remote controls. It makes sense. So that is an interesting trend. I'll lump these next two together. Don't want to spend a ton of time on these, but the Snap AV acquisitions, the growth of Snap AV, and specifically the one that's of most interest to me there is the consolidation in the remote systems management, RSM space. So it was not long ago, less than 4 years ago, that we had 4 major players. We had Domotes, we had IHG, we had Backpack, and then we had Oversee,
right,
as the 4 major players in remote systems management. Well, 3 of those 4 now are all under the Snap AV Oversee brand. Plans to consolidate those continue. Like that's not all done yet, but Domotes is the one that's remained independent, and so that's been definitely a trend that I've been personally very interested in, given my interest in the service and support side of the industry.
And Domotes is pretty much pivoted away from the industry too. They're serving, what are they called? Not ISPs, but like managed service providers. That's what it is. They're looking to basically put those devices in and service larger, not larger, but like office networks and that kind of thing. So you see like the features that they're releasing right now, it's all aimed at helping out managed service providers, not so much AV integrators, because that's kind of like done and taken care of, but also there's a free channel that they've been all kind of drifting to. So between Oversee and Backpack and IHG, I guess, it's kind of hard to make a business plan out of and go up against free if that's not your goal. So it does. This is kind of one of those times where I'm like, man, it really does suck. Like, I really wish there were like 2 or 3 really good players where we can all kind of like pick and choose from, but it's definitely all consolidated under one house now. At least as far as our industry is concerned.
Right. So another top line one here, Seth. Hubs.
Is it Domotes? I mean, I gotta ask, is it Domotes or Domots?
I still don't know.
I heard you pronounce it. It's like, well, he does this every day. Maybe he knows. I'm gonna say Domotes, and now
I think I say it wrong.
Yeah, well,
old habits die hard.
There you go.
So yeah, moving on here. Hubs, specifically, Staples had a hub. Lowe's had a hub. Wink, we talked about earlier on the show, still hanging on, but barely. The Revolve hub, we talked about already what happened there. So there are hubs still around. Obviously, there are some still carving out a spot for themselves. But yeah, this was like hub mania. We had the hub bell for a while there.
I can't ring it.
You know,
It's been like
dust
it's got
that thing
dust
off.
on it. Yeah, there we go. There we go.
Yeah, give that one more for old time's sake.
We don't really need it anymore. I mean, hubs have kind of, no one's announcing a new hardware hub this day and age. The hubs are built into refrigerators for Samsung Smart Things. They're built into your Amazon Echoes. They're built into your phones for HomeKit. And Google has their own, I mean, they have their hub devices, but they have their own like screen technologies and Google Home devices that they're using. So I really don't see a market for hubs anymore. It's kind of wild that was kind of like a flash in the pan. Where you and I probably, I can definitely think that you and I, or say that when you and I were talking, hubs were just kind of like the next big thing. That's where everything was going to go. You were going to buy a Revolve hub.
Totally.
It's got 17 antennas in it. It's going to support 30 different devices.
Yeah.
Not so the case.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting. Savant's retail remote. We can move through that one quick. So part of the remote landscape that we already talked about, that just did not go well for the company. So that's kind of a chapter in Savant's history that they'd probably prefer to move past. Move through that one quickly. The Ring acquisition by Amazon. That was a big deal. That one wasn't all that long ago. Another $1 billion smart home acquisition.
That one was a shocker, and the Control4 acquisition by SnapAV was both of those were shockers to see go through. As far as like jaws dropping on the floor, like Ring being acquired by Amazon, and then like I would remember explaining Control4 being acquired by SnapAV. I was like, well, imagine if a company like Ring was acquired by Amazon, and that had already happened, so they could see exactly what that meant. Like, Control4 is a mainline brand. Ring was a mainline brand acquired by a giant distributor of product, and it's like it's one kind of followed the other, and it was kind of funny to explain that to people on the outside of the industry as to why it was such a big deal that Control4 was acquired.
Yeah, definitely. Quick story on Ring. When we had first started doing the show, I was living in Los Angeles at the time, on the west side of Los Angeles near Santa Monica, and there was an Internet of Things IoT meetup being hosted on meetup.com, and I was participated in that a couple of times, and they had one event at Ring's headquarters there in Santa Monica. And I went and I met Jamie and several other people on the team, and I remember they had like this sort of garage-like work area as part of the building that was really kind of messy, and I remember just thinking like, man, this company's getting a lot of traction, and it was cool actually to see. Like I actually thought it was cool just to be there and see like these are just normal people like working in a building that's kind of a mess and just trying to figure stuff out. And here we are, 6 years later, they were acquired, for billions by Amazon, and hats off to them. What a success story that is.
I think up until like a couple of months ago, they were still in that garage too. From what I understand, they've purchased an office, but also, we add on to your list of things here, COVID. Like also, I think everybody's still working from home. So
yeah, no doubt.
Not so much of an office, but they have a place for people to go back to whenever all this blows over.
Yeah. One other big one, mesh Wi-Fi. That really wasn't a big thing. Certainly, that one's blown up. So Eero being like the big one. Eero, another Amazon acquisition there. Tons of companies in that space now, and that's really become like we've talked about, a kind of table stakes, right? And total speculation here, but I do wonder if that was part of the reason that Apple got out of the airport business. That was a pretty big announcement when that came to light, that Apple wasn't going to be doing their airport Wi-Fi stuff anymore. And I suspect, they were looking at the market and it's just like, it's a crowded market. Everyone's getting in. Like, let's focus on what we do best and let others sort of take care of the Wi-Fi piece.
Right. Yeah. And Apple would have had to have updated. I remember talking about those mesh Wi-Fi things and thinking, okay, there's a chip that is enabling this, right? Like Qualcomm or some chip manufacturer has come up with this mesh product. It wasn't Eero. Like Eero basically put the product together around that chip.
Yeah.
But Eero was kind of first to market with it and really hit a home run with their product and how well and easy it was to set up. They did a good job marketing. And of course, Amazon ended up buying them later on for their efforts. So good job, guys. But yeah, I think Apple would have had to basically taken their routers and redesign them on whatever platform this was developed on. And I think at the time, the company was just more like, well, we got iPhones. And Why invest in routers when we have iPhones making us money? And that whole airport. I mean, I remember airports. You would go into a house in the airport, and it's like, all right, Wi-Fi's taken care of. I don't have to worry about it. But as it kept going, like airports just kind of dropped off the radar. You not want to work with them anymore. You do a mesh Wi-Fi technology like Eero, get that thing up and going a lot faster. And Apple basically pulled out of the market. That was a huge deal. It was really wild to see. I guess coming from our angles, from how many of those Apple Airport Extremes and Expresses that we've seen in the market. Like I actually have one for the museum back there up on the shelf.
Good.
Yeah.
Very good. You got to have that.
What's crazy is they still work. They still work, Jason. They were updated with AirPlay 2. So you can actually still use them as an AirPlay 2 endpoint.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, I really liked them. I know that in the CDA community, they were sort of a divisive product, so to speak. Like the more hardcore network guys would definitely look down their nose at me for saying that. But I thought they were great for the right job. I mean, they have their limits, and you weren't necessarily going to go run a 20,000 square foot house on them, obviously. But yeah, for what they did, I thought they were great. So that was interesting. Well, speaking of the museum, Seth, Wipe Warmer 3000. I had to get that one on here.
Oh man, tell me you still have the Wipe Warmer 3000.
God. I honestly, I don't know. It's probably in a box somewhere.
Yeah. Now I do know that the domain still works. So if you go to wipewarmer3000.com, it should bring you to our the wipewarmer3000.com website where you can check out the Wipe Warmer 3000 and see if it's still there.
Wipewarmer3000.com. There it is, the world's first internet connected wipe warmer. Oh, classic.
Yep. I remember making this thing, shipping it over to you because I had never, as a non-parent, had never seen a wipe warmer before, and somebody had told me about wipe warmers, and I was like, you know what? Jason's a parent. He will probably want a wipe warmer, but we got to automate this thing, and I ordered some kind of crazy parts from China.
You did the full thing.
Yeah, I put it together, and I turned on and off the wipe warmer from Sarasota, Florida, up to Denver to get those wipes warmed. You could do it over an app. It was great.
This was the biggest home technology story of the last 5 years that you never heard about. This one went way under the radar. Totally underappreciated.
What was the assistant shield thing we did too? Like the mirrored thing where block lasers from hitting your speaker so it can hear what you're saying?
That's right. It was like a tissue box or something.
No. It was a custom made mirror box, Jason. Clearly.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. Sorry. I think we tried to sell those and they didn't
go so well.
No Kickstarter.
It was MVP,
Yep. Oh, too good.
It's funny stuff. Well, the streaming explosion I had listed on here, we already touched on that a little bit. Just the massive boom in different streaming services. Apple, Disney Plus, NBC has theirs, HBO Max, tons of them. I won't rattle them all off, but this anyone who's listened to the show for any period of time knows this has been one of the most interesting trends in the smart home over the last several years. Just completely changing the way that we consume content in the home. Streaming services in general. I'm talking mostly about video here, but streaming audio as well. You could include in that.
It's been a wild ride with streaming in general.
Yeah, absolutely. And then last on our list here, one trend that I thought was interesting that's kind of quieted down. I'm curious to know what's going on here, but it was definitely something that had jumped out at us as a interesting trend as we were doing the show was builders, sort of production builders showing increased interest in the smart home. You had Brookfield, Lennar, KB Homes, all working, I think, in various capacities with HomeKit, if my notes were correct on that one. Lennar doing their Ruckus Wi-Fi certification, Toll Brothers doing their TBI Smart Home Solutions subsidiary. So increasing interest from the production builder side in, I think, a strong indication that assuming builders continue to move in that direction, that these things will indeed become more mainstream. But, speaking of mainstream, like that's just one of the interesting things that sort of a macro trend that we were talking about way back on episode 1. Like what is it going to take for the smart home to really go mainstream? And I think we've seen tremendous movement in that direction with things like the Amazon Echoes and, HomeKit and Google getting more and more into it. But still not what I would consider mainstream.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's more mainstream than it was. I think what we were. I remember one of the things I was saying back then was, when I remember it because I listened to it like less than 2 or 3 hours ago. Not that I remember what I said 6 years ago. The one of the things I was saying is like they're going to make all these devices. We're going to see a lot of research and development put into making devices that are smart, and they're just going to come out of the box smart, and they're going to work with each other. And I think we've seen that. Like when you go and buy a product on Amazon or at the store or whatever, it may have a HomeKit label on it. It may have a Google label or an Amazon label. And I think that is at least on people's minds when they're, at least manufacturers' minds when they're making these products. It's like, well, how are we going to do this? And I'm happy to see that. I'm happy to see like the interoperability between products. Right now, it's kind of like still siloed. Like you still have the Amazon silo, you have the Google silo, you have the Apple silo. There's no the chip promise, right? Chip connected home over IP that everybody's all excited about. There's no real information on that, and there's nothing that says that's going to be a success at all. Like, so we've still got our silos we got to work in, which isn't like anything different that was going on back then, Jason. Like you had your Crestron silo, you had your Control 4 silo. You definitely had particular brands that only worked with their stuff. It's just a little bit bigger now, right? You have these. I think it's a little bit more mainstream. I don't think is there yet. I don't think home automation, home control is what you would say mainstream. I still think we're in the early adoption phase, and until it, like you said, builders are building it in the home, but until it becomes like, well, of course builders are building in the home. It's just like, of course they're putting electricity in my house. Of course they're putting air conditioning. Of course they're putting home automation in the house. Until they're to that point, I'm not going to say it's a mainstream thing. Until we get to those conversations when we're having those conversations.
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, sort of hinting at, I think the statement that I would close this section on is that anytime you're trying to watch kind of like an innovative trend or sort of these macro trends of like what's happening in, I don't know, space or self-driving cars or any of these things, like when you zoom in close and you're doing a show week in and week out, for example, on a smart home, like it can feel like things are moving really slowly because you're just too close to it. And that's just how things work. Like I think we sort of fall in love with the idea of the big innovative breakthrough or the one product that really makes us take a huge leap forward. But in reality, all of these things are incremental and messy, and they just take time to evolve. And I think that the last 5 to 6 years in the smart home that we've been doing this show, there's been tremendous movement forward in terms of making the smart home more accessible, making it more affordable, making it more sophisticated. And it's been really fun to sit down every week with you and watch it all happen.
Yep. No, it's been a blast for 6 years to sit down every week. I mean, literally almost every week. I think we took we say this, we've taken a couple weeks off here and there for things like, vacations and holidays with the family. But for the past 6 years, it's been a good run. So I'm sure things will continue moving on in the home technology space, and I'll try and keep that going. And if you ever want to say something and come back on the show and talk tech, hey, we're here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just doing some math here. So 6 years we've been doing the show times
No, I was told there'd be no math.
52 shows a year. That doesn't make sense. So 312. We're on 337. So
it's a bonus episodes.
Yeah, I got something screwed up there, but yeah, we've definitely worked hard to try to get these shows out every single week, and we've missed a few, but that's been one of the most, I think, fun parts of working with you on the show and having a partner who's really dedicated to sitting down every single week in and week out. moving lots of stuff around in our personal lives. It's not always easy. There's a lot of behind the scenes sort of coordination that goes in to making that all happen. Sometimes things get busy and we got to move stuff around. But yeah, it's been awesome. I'm, like I said earlier, really, really grateful for all of it.
Same here. I will echo that and say it's been a pleasure. It's absolutely been, like I said, it's been fun.
Well, do we want to close things out with one last pick of the week here?
Yeah. I found the pick of the week thing has been really fun because I always run across these quirky things, and I'm glad there was a segment we kind of started up. But this one did not escape from the meme generation that we've had over this Bernie Sanders thing, Jason. I mean,
they're crazy.
They're putting him everywhere. And turns out a company called Quadrillion, which is a CAD company that you can get to basically, outsource your CAD drawings as an AV company or engineering company, has made a Bernie Sanders CAD block that you can get. And there you can you've got a nice little picture of him sitting there under, in a elevation with a Epson projector and a screen on the wall. And Bernie Sanders sitting there with his mittens.
I love this.
Looking cold.
These memes are they're just fascinating to me. Like, this was just a picture of Bernie Sanders sitting in a chair, but it just totally caught fire. And my sister sent one to the family that we kind of had like an inside joke about. And that was the first I saw of it. And I didn't get it. I was like, I don't understand what this is. And yeah, shortly after that I did, but this is good. This is one of the better ones I've seen. So
yeah. If you do any CAD drawings or engineering, be sure to include this. In your
get that in there. Yeah,
people will know it's to life size. It's to scale. So why not?
That's really funny. Yeah, you got to get that one in there while it's still topical.
Yeah.
Give your architects and designers and homeowners a little bit of a laugh next time they open up your CAD drawings.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm seeing them build, Bernie and the picture of him into video games. I think it's going to have a little more legs than the flash in the pan meme. It's going to be around
than your typical meme.
Yep. It's going to be a while.
That's funny. We'll close this show out a little bit differently than we typically do. So not our typical announcements here. Again, Seth is going to carry the torch, which I am really happy to know that that's where you landed and decided to do. And I'll continue to check in and I'll stay signed into that the Slack, the hub community there, and we'll check in and chime in if anyone wants to reach out. Would love to hear that. And I'm going to be repetitive and just say it one last time. Really appreciative, Seth, of everything that you've done to make this a successful show, and also really just tremendously grateful for all of the community and great people that we've built up. And I really hope that I stay connected to everyone. Again, I'll be doing work over at pillarsofimpact.com, or follow me over on Twitter at Jason Griffing. And don't know where exactly that's going to take me, but I'm looking forward to the experiment and hope some people will come tune in and follow along.
Well said. And Jason, it's been a pleasure. Like I said, I'll say it again. It's been a pleasure. I'm not kidding. If you have the opportunity to work with Jason, work with Jason. He's great. He's absolutely fun to be around, and just really puts all his passion into projects. So, good guy. So, really appreciate it, Jason. And we are gonna end the show. I guess we're not doing the announcements and anything like you said. So, thanks everybody for listening, and thanks everybody for joining in the live chat too. You have been lively tonight.
Yeah, awesome. Really fun.
I don't think we could have done this without you. But thanks everybody for listening, and Jason, have a great weekend.
All right. Thanks everyone. Take care.